Afternoon. My name is Ian Ross. I am the solicitor and legal advisor to Telford and Wrekin Council's Planning Committee. My initial task for today's committee is to clarify and confirm which planning committee members are in attendance. So alphabetically, I'll start. Councillor Dugmore.
Present.
Councillor Kiernan.
Present.
Councillor Lavery. Councillor Lavery is not present at the moment, it appears. I don't know whether we can do anything to try and contact Councillor Lavery, but in the meantime, I'll continue. Councillor Loveridge.
Wasn't there?
Councillor
There
Loveridge.
somewhere.
Perhaps we could do the same and try and contact Councillor Loveridge, please. Thank you. Thanks very much. Councillor Sahota.
Present.
Councillor Scott.
Present, but video not working.
Okay. Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Turley.
Present.
Councillor White. Now, as things stand, Chair, we have no Councillor White, no Councillor Loveridge, and no Councillor Lavery. So of the usual 9, we've only got 6. I'm not sure what you'd like to do. Would you like to just carry on? We are quorate. I could carry on introducing the officers, and we could see what happens over the next couple of minutes.
Well, we call it, but Councillor Loveridge, a picture did appear.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's happened. So can we
that was me trying to dial them in, Chair.
Thank you. Well, in the meantime, I'll just check to confirm which Telford and Wrekin Council officers are also in attendance, Chair, if that's okay. Thank you. Council officers. Valerie Hume, Service Delivery Manager for Planning.
Present.
Andrew Gittins, Area Team Manager for Planning.
Present.
Kieran Robinson, Democratic and Scrutiny Services Officer.
Present.
Maria Altonel, Democratic and Scrutiny Services Officer.
Present.
Karen Denmark, Principal Planning Officer.
Present.
Thank you. Just seeing who, it doesn't appear that any of the councillors have arrived, but
Go on, get me plug in.
but may I now hand over to our Chair of Planning Committee, Councillor Charles Smith, to formally open the meeting and welcome everyone to the meeting this afternoon.
Thank you, Ian. Welcome to Telford and Wrekin Planning Committee. Due to the current COVID-19 regulations, today's meeting is being held using audio conferencing and available to the public to listen to via an audio feed on the agenda page of our website or via the Council's YouTube channels. This ensures that all those involved or interested in the planning application can hear how the decisions are made. Only those people who have been notified prior to the meeting are able to speak and will be dialed into the meeting via telephone for the application on which they wish to speak. Members and other participants should only speak when invited to do so. Can everyone please ensure their microphones are on mute and not addressing the committee, and anyone disrupting the meeting will be muted or asked to remove from the meeting. Thank you. I think we are quorate, so we'll carry on with the meeting. Are there any apologies? Democratic Services, give the apologies, please.
Yes, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Mehta. His substitute will be Councillor Sahota. Councillor Fletcher, whose substitute will be Councillor Kiernan. Councillor Jones, whose substitute will be Councillor Loveridge. And Councillor Middleton, whose substitute will be Councillor White.
Is Councillor White present yet?
No, Chair.
No, right, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest on the agenda?
Yeah, go on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Terry.
I have to declare interest because I am a Freemason. at Constitution Hill, which I've been since 1986, but I've not been involved in any of the planning applications regarding the 4 houses which have been built in any shape or form, and would like to remain in the meeting while this item is discussed.
Ian, could you say anything about that? I don't see a problem really, but Ian Ross?
No, it's a matter for Councillor Kiernan to determine, and Councillor Kiernan has clearly formed the view that he feels no personal or prejudicial interest, and therefore has chosen to remain, and I have no reason to go against that position.
All right, thank you, Ian. Democratic Services, are there any other apologies being received?
No, Chair.
No other declaration of interest? No? Ooh. At this point, I have to ask the legal services to have another roll call.
Yes, I can do that for you, Chair.
And
Again, I'll go straight through it very quickly. Perhaps you could confirm whether you're in attendance still or have arrived since the last roll call. Councillor Dugmore?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Kiernan?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Lavery? Are we making efforts to try and contact Councillor Lavery?
Yes, I have been trying, but he's
Okay.
not present yet.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Loveridge?
Present.
That's good. Councillor Sahota?
Present.
Councillor Scott?
Present.
Councillor Smith?
Present.
Councillor Turley?
Present.
And Councillor White? Are we making efforts to contact Councillor White as well? Yeah.
We are, but still no answer.
Okay. Well, we are quorate, Chair, and
Yes. Yeah.
and just to remind members that members who join halfway through an item won't be in a position to vote on the item. That's why we're making the extra effort to try and get people in at the early stage.
Right.
However, we're on item 3, Chair, I think.
What's item 3? We've done the declaration of interest. Can we confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, please? Somebody move them as a true record?
Chair.
Is there a seconder for that as well?
Yes. Second.
All right. Ian, you've got to go and ask who's in favour and who's against the minutes.
Yes, as regards the minutes, please could members indicate which way they wish to vote. We had a proposer and a seconder for the minutes. Councillor Dugmore?
For.
Councillor Kiernan?
I can't.
Wasn't present. So.
Wasn't there, thank you. I'll try Councillor Lavery. Still not here. Councillor Loveridge, I don't think Councillor Loveridge was present either at the last meeting. No. Councillor Sahota?
I was present and I for, but you haven't got my name down. I think my name's missing from the present.
No, I'll vouch for him. He was definitely there.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
We can make that amendment, I think, can't we, Kieran? Yes. Thank you. Councillor Scott?
For.
Councillor Smith?
For.
Councillor Turley?
For.
And has Councillor White arrived? I don't think so, but no. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have any items been withdrawn?
No, Chair.
All right, thank you. Are there any site visits planned?
Not at this moment, Chair, no.
Right. Then we move to the items for consideration. Now, I intend to do them in this order. Start on page 61. This is the demolition of Apley Court on Dot Hill. This is what's the number? 2020/0446 is the number. It's on page 61 of the agenda. I then intend to do the second one will be on page 37, which is the Dosley Industrial Estate That's 2020-0410. So we do the Ormond Court one first. Who's delivering this one from the officer's point of view?
That's me, Andrew Gittins, Chair. Thank you.
If you can introduce it, then we'll call in the speakers.
So this is a full application for the demolition of the 9-storey Apley Court and the erection of a 5 to 6 storey 81 apartment extra care facility. The application is at committee at the request of Councillor Tomlinson. A written update provides a detailed response to an additional neighbour letter in response to the committee report. The officer recommendation has been updated to include an amended site plan submitted in response to the neighbours' comments, which show 5 additional trees, including 2 flowering cherries. This is together with an additional condition to secure a local lettings plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We now need to call in the speakers, Councillor Karen Tomlinson, Richard Camp and Heather Sutton, in that order.
So one at a time, Chair.
Get Councillor Karen Tomlinson.
I'm attempting to dial, but there's no answer yet, Chair.
Can you try Mr. Richard Camp then?
Unknown participant is now joining.
Hello, Mr. Camp.
Hello?
Hello, is Mr. Camp there? It's the planning committee.
Speaking.
There's no answer yet, Chair.
Hello, is that the planning committee?
Yes,
Hello?
it is.
Hello?
Hello.
Is that the planning committee?
It is the planning committee. Who's calling?
Well, it's Richard Camp. You rang me.
Right. I think there's something gone wrong with the communications. But are you the speaker, or is Mr. Camp the speaking?
Sorry, I couldn't quite make out what you were saying. Can you say that last bit again?
Are you going to do the speaking, or is Mr. Camp going to do the speaking?
I am Mr. Camp, and I am one of those who should be speaking.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Camp. Distortion on the line this end.
Okay, I'm all ready.
You're all ready?
Yes.
Can you give your 3-minute speech then, Mr. Camp?
You want me to do that now?
Yes, please. I do apologise for we had a bit of distortion on the line. We've had some troubles today.
Okay.
Bear with me a second, Chair, while I get the timer.
Yeah.
3 minutes starts now.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I do hope that all the members of the committee have taken the trouble to read the notes which I sent to you all by email. I just want to reiterate some of the main points. Firstly, I do not object to the flats in general terms. I just object to cutting down the mature trees, especially tree T21, which is a cherry tree on the corner of the site by Severn Drive. And I also object to building the flats closer to the main road than the old flats which were there before. Another point I wish to make is the council and the planning committee need to decide how serious it is about its own declaration of a climate emergency, which the council has made. Cutting down healthy mature trees like tree T21 is not in keeping with a climate emergency, and it will take around 30 years to replace it with a tree of a similar nature. In Telford in 2017, 62 people aged over 25 died of causes which were linked to poor air quality. So plainly, it is a problem in Telford. Another point is that your own tree officer says that even the replacement trees he suggests, which were more than the applicant wanted for the site, do not comply with the Telford and Wrekin local plan, planning policy NE2, trees, etc. This alone should result in a refusal of the planning application in its present state. This is especially so as I don't think other people would be allowed to break the planning policy, so why should this one? Building a bigger footprint block of flats, which is what the applicant wants to do, may sound more desirable, but it is not necessary. If the ground area was smaller, the applicant would simply design a smaller footprint block of flats. To build a bigger footprint block of flats than the previous one, they have to move nearer to Severn Drive, and tree T21, amongst others, is in the way, so would have to be cut down, and this should not be allowed. Cutting down tree T21 would change the whole aspect of this part of Severn Drive to the detriment of the area. There will also be a loss of privacy.
3 minutes, Chair.
Opposite. The applicant should not be allowed to build nearer to Severn Drive than the previous block of flats. It is exceeding the previous building line for the site.
Mr. Camp, your 3 minutes is up now.
Yes. Can I just finish?
Just
Only got a little bit more.
Very quickly.
Quickly, finally, 51 people have objected to cutting down the trees, including the Shropshire Wildlife Trust, who are recognised experts in these matters. The council should listen to its electors, especially when an application is not absolutely necessary in the footprint and position of this one. Elected representatives should serve as much as govern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Camp. Have we got Karen Tomlinson yet?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I had trouble with Teams. I couldn't get in, so sorry about that. I was desperately trying.
You've got 3 minutes.
Okay, I might run over by another paragraph. I'll do my best. Okay.
Minutes.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you for letting me speak on this planning matter. I called this application in due to the concerns expressed to me by residents, primarily regarding removal of trees, overdevelopment and the internal size of the dwellings if they are built. I've received complaints from residents regarding the lack of consultation, particularly due to COVID. Trees will have to be removed to make this site viable, which is quite alarming.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
This is commented on by the Shropshire Wildlife Trust on point 7.4. These have also been mentioned in 8.23, where it was commented that there is ash dieback, which was not mentioned in the report from the Wildlife Trust. In 8.24, WHT have increased the girth of new trees, and in 8.27, the line has been retained to T19. In conclusion of the report on page 69, 826, I am aghast that the usual wording on balance, the development and viability of the scheme outweighs the loss of trees. Sorry, I'm trying to get my screen. On the local plan, I refer to BE1, number 4. Residents feel that the new development will affect the curtilage as the new build is much closer to the road than the previous flats. The new build will not accommodate the footprint from the previous flats, Holborn Court, which were demolished. The new design granted is lower in height than the previous flats and indeed the existing Appley Court block of flats. The majority of the Wrekin Housing Trust new developments are 1 to 2 stories high, which surely is safer for the old generation in case of fire. This is overdevelopment of the area. Bungalows have already been built on green areas purchased in Telford and Wrekin. The garages, Burway Court and Dekirk were demolished, and the bungalows built in their place, but not exactly their footprints. Also, the existing car park for Appley Court was reduced as was their garden to make way for more bungalows to be built. If this planning application is accepted, some of the existing residents of Apley Court are very unhappy that the internal layout will be smaller than they used to and won't have separate kitchens, and it will all be open plan. On section 811, I was perturbed to see if prior to demolition of Holborn Court residents would have to use the balconies. This does not mean to say the new build would be okay, as they were used to it. These residents were happy the old block was demolished and are unhappy with the new proposal. Also, when the old block was demolished, there were terrible issues with dust, etc. Can you imagine what it'd be like for the new build? In 814, I asked the trust if a shadow report would be done. They did that, but only sunlight between 10 and 2, which is not acceptable. I was also disappointed with the town council, as their only comment was to do the island, which was also commenting on 2 previous applications, not regarding this one. The financial viability of the potential site should not be the primary consideration for the planning committee. The viability of a planning application is an issue for the developer. In conclusion, I request the plans board refuse this application. I made it to be cutting the bit out. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We now have Heather Sutton, the applicant's agent. Is she with us?
Just dialing now, Chair.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Hello, Heather Sutton speaking here.
Hello, Heather. Councillor Charles Smith, Chair of the Planning Committee.
Hi.
Do you want to, if you can address the Planning Committee, you've got 3 minutes.
Okay,
Right.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Heather Sutton of Sutton and Wilkinson Architects, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the applicant, the Wrekin Housing Group. The scheme before you proposes an exciting opportunity to address the shortage of supported living accommodation for the over 55s in Dot Hill and the wider Wellington area. The proposed extra care scheme proposes 81 1- and 2-bedroom apartments with communal facilities including residence lounge, hobby room, laundry, cafe and hairdressers, with the cafe and hairdressers being open for use by the general public. The development is fully staffed 24/7 with on-site staff facilities. The design proposes the removal of the 9-storey Apley Court, its sister tower Horman Court having been demolished in 2015. It is the group's intention to deliver the scheme in 2 phases to allow the existing residents of Apley Court to remain in their current homes until the first phase of 45 apartments has been completed. Once residents who wish to move into the new development have been rehomed, Apley Court will be demolished and the second phase commenced. Once fully completed, a mix of 38 1-bed and 43 2-bed apartments, all offering stylish, independent, affordable rented living opportunities, will have been provided. In order to accommodate the scheme, 7 number trees will require removal. All of the 7 trees have tree preservation orders placed on them. However, of these 7 trees, 3 are either badly diseased or already dead. We are therefore proposing the removal of 4 healthy trees. In order to mitigate this loss, 22 new trees will be planted on the site. A number of these 22 new trees will be planted along Severn Drive. Additional tree planting has also been proposed within the external paved terrace space itself. The 2 trees within the terrace will specifically replace T15 and T21. We are suggesting a mix of maples and flowering cherry trees to replicate the arboricultural appearance of the existing trees being removed in this area. We have worked closely with the local authority's tree officer and planning officer during the determination period, and the design has further developed, including the addition of movable sliding screens added to glazed balcony areas which provide additional privacy. Though longer in plan form than the 2 original towers, the proposed development is considerably lower at 5 and 6 stories in height, Apley and Holman being 9 stories in height. The overall massing of the development is broken down into 2 distinct blocks, separated by a fully glazed atrium, allowing clear views to the building. A complementary palette of colours and materials offers a contemporary, energy-efficient design solution. In summary, the scheme before you offers a high-quality response to the Dot Hill site and will help deliver much-needed, affordable rented accommodation for the over 55s. We would therefore respectfully request that members support the scheme before you as recommended by your officers to enable this exciting redevelopment to be delivered for all the people of Dot Hill and the wider area. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Right, we're back to Andy.
Thank you, Chair. just in terms of a brief update following the speakers. In respect to the issues raised, we fully respect that the building will be closer to Severn Drive than parts of the previous and current block. However, what we've ensured is that sufficient separation distances are in place. There's a minimum of 27.5 metres, the majority of the blocks 33 metres away, and special attention's been paid to the glazing, the rooms that those windows serve, and the balconies in terms of obscurely glazing those balconies. In respect to the second point, that's tree removal. As we've heard, there's a net increase of 15 trees, and the applicant has agreed with ourselves to plant semi-mature trees, which are larger than the standard trees that are put in. I do concede that there will be a period of time where it takes to get to the equivalent of the current trees that are there, but that does have to be taken into account in the overall planning balance. And then with regard, I don't think it was mentioned, but it has been mentioned in comments, with regard to the suitability of the building for occupation by older residents in need of care. The group, Wrekin Housing Group, already operate a number of extra care facilities within the borough, and they actually have their own fire safety engineer. They will, excuse me, liaise with the local fire authority in terms of designing the building so it's safe from a fire safety perspective, which will actually exceed local building regulations. So, in summary, there are no objections from the Council's technical consultees. The objections from other statutory consultees have been taken into account, and the scheme has sought to mitigate these concerns where possible. The site is constrained. We've got the requirement or the need to retain Apley Court while the first phase is built. Following completion of that, as Miss Sutton said, the residents who wish to do so could move over, and then Apley Court would be demolished after that. So officers consider in the overall planning balance that any harm is outweighed by the benefits, and our recommendation is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Andy. It's open to the committee now then. Who wants to go first? Nigel Dugmore.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Yeah. Obviously, an extra care facility is to be welcomed because with an ageing population, we need to have the facilities to provide that. And I think overall the proposal looks fine to me. I mean, there's a reduced height, even though the footprint's bigger. And of course, we're getting rid of some 60s tower blocks. Well, I'm assuming they're 60s tower blocks because that's what they look like anyway. I would be interested to know, the comments made about how the new build is much closer to the road. I'd be interested to know what the difference is between the two, the existing and the proposed. On 7.2, the new round, there's calls again for a new roundabout at the junction of North Road and Whitchurch Road. I mean, I'm not too sure how much pressure we can put on this junction before Highways Department capitulate, and we do actually get a roundabout there. But certainly, I mean, the development's not going to help, and if we can put some more pressure on them to get that roundabout, because it is desperately needed. On 8.22 regarding the trees, I mean, obviously we don't want healthy, mature trees to be removed, but the replacement ones, their girth of 25 centimetres, are going to be fairly big, and certainly I don't think you could plant anything bigger than that because of the root structure. it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention parking. The parking looks okay. The only thing that I have got concerns about, and perhaps I've missed it on the map, the bin storage area doesn't look big enough to me, and I'm a bit concerned as to the access for not only the refuse lorries but also emergency vehicles, because obviously there needs to be somewhere for ambulances or emergency vehicles to go because of the nature of the development. So if that could be looked at even at this late stage, I think that would be beneficial, so that there isn't so we're not creating a problem for ourselves in the future. But other than that, I'm relatively relaxed about this particular development, and I think it will. I think once it's done, it'll certainly be an asset to the area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nigel. Any other committee member want to speak? No. Oh, there's one other. Councillor Scott. Councillor Scott.
He's down
there. Councillor Sahota then.
Oh, thank you, Charles. Thanks very much. Yeah, I looked at the application, Charles, on the paper. It looks very well, and I heard all the the kind of from the agent. 81 when the both phases are complete, should be quite good. But I got a number of questions and clarifications from the officers, Chair. The first one is this one is from one of the consultation. Was there proper consultation carried out because of the lockdown, and the people sometimes don't get round to hear about it, and then they can put their comments through? Was there proper consultation and extra time was required for the people around the neighbourhood there to have their saying from our officers, please?
I'll call the officer in a minute, Coolip. I'll call him in a minute. He can answer all the questions at once. There's several points have been raised by Nigel Dugmore and yourself.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Scott, did you have anything else, Coolip?
Yeah, the other one I had was, is there anything we can do to save this the cherry tree, about which the locals seems to be having a big affection for? Is there something we can do to save it? Because I got a soft spot for these cherry trees. Thank you.
Well, that's good. Andy will get him to do that when he gets it. Councillor Scott, did you want to come in and speak? Is Councillor Scott with us? No? Right.
He is with us, but I believe he's muted.
He's muted, is he?
Every cloud has a silver lining.
No, Nigel. Valerie, who wants to speak?
Chair, if I may just address the issue around consultation. I'm aware of this one because I had a conversation with Councillor Karen Tomlinson earlier on in June with regard to the deadlines for comments. Now, deadlines for comments were originally the 3rd of July, and we did actually extend that, having Karen brought that to our attention that some people hadn't seen the site notice and such. So we did extend that to the 10th officially, but all consultation is taken into consideration up until the point of determination. So for us, effectively, it was up until Monday so that we could complete our reports, which has been done, and we have duly therefore followed the standard 21-day consultation which is required for this type of application. So I can confirm that consultation has been undertaken correctly.
Thank you, Val. Councillor Peter Scott wanted to come in and speak, but we can't get in touch with him. Councillor Houghton, you've still got your hand up. Do you want to come back in?
No, is my hand still up, is it?
Yes, it is, yes.
Sorry. Oh, he's down now.
Down now. Peter Scott, states unknown. Where is Peter Scott?
I will try and call him on his mobile, Chair.
Yeah. I hope he's listened to the debate, otherwise he can't vote.
Oh, he sent a message.
Andrew, do you want to come back? Andrew?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah. So
I sent a message.
Oh, I'll just wait a second, Chair.
Right.
Chair, I know I shouldn't interrupt, but Peter Scott's put a comment that he's having technical issues.
Yeah, well, we have to take those into account. But
He put, I did want highways to confirm progress in any mini roundabout. But my comment from earlier is that from 2 previous planning applications, it's already, if you speak to Val Hume, it's already regarding the new place, which mentioned a mini roundabout and the Charlton School. I think it's in the 106 agreement with that. If you could just confirm with the officer.
okay, Karen, I was on that committee which recommended that, and I know what's going on. Actually, Karen, I can't allow the interruptions from a non-member of the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Just thought I'd let you know. Sorry.
Okay.
Chair, might I make a point? It's Ian Ross from Legal Services.
Yes, Ian.
Just picking up on the message that Councillor Scott has put through. He's saying he's having technical issues. He did want highways to confirm progress of a mini roundabout, and he said he's going to come off and try and come back on. But he's obviously been hearing the debate. I wouldn't like him to miss any of the debate, because otherwise he'll be prevented from voting. So maybe we'll be able to just pause just for a moment, because it's a shame for a member to listen to the whole debate and then not be able to vote at the end of it. So perhaps we could just wait to see whether Kieran, have you made any progress getting Councillor Scott back on?
Not yet, Ian. I've just tried to call the phone, but it's not going through.
Val, you've got your hand up.
I have, Chair. Thanks for coming back to me. It's picking up on the point around the mini roundabout. We have actually received a couple of inquiries in this over the last couple of days, so I'm aware of it a little bit more. We have secured £48,000 from the BRJ site, the Blessed Robert Johnson School site, to fund a mini roundabout at that junction between North Road and Whitchurch Road. Works have not yet been delivered, as it's part of a wider suite of improvements within the area, which includes the improved roundabout at Apley Avenue and Whitchurch Road junction, in association with the other funding that's secured from the old Charlton site. So I hope that clarifies that it will be coming forward at a later date.
Thank you, Val. We haven't got Peter Scott back yet, have we?
Yes, we have.
We have we?
We have, yes.
Yeah.
Apologies, yeah, I had difficulty in my end. And I think any comments I wanted to make were covered off by Councillor Dugmore, so I'm happy.
Just, Chair, might I just make a comment? Councillor Scott, did you manage to hear what Valerie Hume just said?
Yes, I did. Yes, I've heard everything. I've just had difficulties, but I've done a quick reboot. Everything's on now. I'm fine.
Yes. Chair, I don't think Councillor Scott missed anything. So
no,
as far as I can see, he's still entitled to vote.
Yeah, he did. So we know, if there's no further comments on it, can we move to the vote then? Ian, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Chair. Chair, we need did we have a proposer and a seconder?
Chair, I move the recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, Chair.
Moved and seconded.
Yes, Chair. Now I'll go through alphabetically, members, to gauge your response and your vote in respect to this application as moved and seconded. Councillor Dugmore?
For.
Councillor Kiernan?
For.
Councillor Loveridge?
For.
Councillor Sahota?
For.
Councillor Scott?
For.
Councillor Smith?
For.
Councillor Turley?
For.
Chair, those were the members who were present during the debate and the discussion, so that is the completion of the vote on that.
That application is allowed. Okay. Thank you.
Chair, just sorry, because we've
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Because we had we're still 2 members short. May I just query to see whether Councillor Lavery or Councillor White have arrived?
Oh, we don't suggest that, Ian. Before we move on.
Sorry.
That's those 2. Yeah.
Councillor Lavery, are you here? Councillor White, are you here? No, I think that's quite clear that they haven't managed to get on the meeting.
Well, we're still quorate anyway, so we'll move on then.
Thank you, Chair.
Item 2 then is the Doseley Industrial Estate, Frame Lane, Doseley, which is on page 37. And this is 2020-0410. Andy, is that you again?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I was just waiting for the members to get to the relevant page. So it's a full application for the erection of 48 dwellings at Doseley Industrial Estate, as you said, Chair. It's at committee as it's a major and it's subject to a Section 106 agreement for affordable housing and contributions. The written update advises on the submission of an amended plan which addresses the council's housing officer's comments, and it also provides a detailed response from the applicant in response to the council's policy team's comments. The officer recommendation remains the same. That's for approval subject to conditions, Section 106 and informatives. There are speakers, Chair, so I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 speakers: Dave Hopkins, Jackie Seymour, and Robin Hooper, the applicant's agent. So is Dave Hopkins available?
Dialing now, Chair.
Dialing now, okay, thank you.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Hello, Mr. Hopkins.
It is, yes.
Hi, Councillor Hopkins. You're with the Planning Committee now.
Okay, I've muted the YouTube.
Dave Hopkins, is it?
Yes, it is.
It's Councillor Charles Smith. I chair the Planning Committee. You've got 3 minutes to speak to address the committee. We do stop you at 3 minutes. So can you make your submission starting now, please?
Okay.
If you're ready.
Yeah, I'm fine. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councillor David Hopkins. I represent Dorley Hamlets Parish Council and local residents. I lived in Frame Lane next to the industrial estate for 15 years, so I know the area that I'm talking about. First of all, this is not a disused industrial estate. One of the recent objections came from one of the 4 businesses who are still operating there and would like to continue operating there. This is a speculative development, and it would appear that the developers have done what they can to achieve the removal of businesses from the site. Phoenix Mason Investments Limited know that if they can acquire this industrial usage land and then sell it as land for building houses on, they will make a very significant profit. The business and small commercial enterprises that are there and were there are an inconvenience for them. They are not interested in businesses and jobs in this area. So, Planning Committee members, you need to be very clear on what you could be supporting here. If you agree to this application, you are destroying an opportunity both now and in the future for business and jobs locally. What you would be supporting is a massive profit for a Birmingham-based property speculator. Secondly, houses. Doseley is presently seeing far more than its share of building developments. Some of the developments have been sensible, providing houses for people who need them. I believe it is time to call a halt before this community is spoilt by overdevelopment. Another 48 houses using these roads, combined with the loss of a long-established area of local employment, is a bad move. You have the opportunity to make a difference. And finally, roads. Objections from local residents that have been raised about planning issues in this area show an overwhelming concern about the roads, increased traffic and the increasing risk to pedestrians on roads which are essentially rural lanes. There are narrow sections, sections without pavements and sections which require residents to park on the road, reducing its width. All of these issues apply to the part of Frame Lane where this development joins it in particular. Telford and Wrekin highways can't make the roads wider, they can't magic up off-road parking, and they can't produce footpaths where there isn't room for them. You, however, Planning Committee members, have the power today to prevent another 100 or so cars being put onto these roads. And don't forget, maintain and increase local employment at the same time. The decision is yours. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, Councillor Jackie Seymour.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Have we contacted Jackie Seymour yet?
It's currently calling. She should be in the meeting now, Chair.
Hello, Jackie. Jackie, can you hit your mute button? Can't hear you.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Jackie. Yeah, you got you now.
Can I just say you realise I'm speaking on this application on behalf of Councillor Jane Greenaway, who's...
Yes, well, I did give permission for you to speak as a joining ward member.
Right, okay. I'll proceed then. Since 2018, the Doseley site has seen a number of applications. In that time, there have been amendments and a refusal on part of the site, plus an appeal which upheld the determination. However, this particular site provides for small to medium businesses, which most importantly provide local jobs. These are not office spaces. The provision is principally for secured fenced yards which do not accommodate large HGV vehicles. Unfortunately, while ever the applicant has owned half the site, that bit has remained unused. As a result, local businesses looking for that kind of property to which to relocate have not been able to find anything similar. Telford and Wrekin Business Support have agreed that this type of provision is not available elsewhere in the borough. Hence the need to support this type of site for employment for local people. With some investment, this could be achieved and would be better than accepting the easy option of housing for profit on what is, incidentally, a working site, not a brownfield one. However, should it go ahead, please note that although local play provision has been included, it is not local enough. Councillor Greenaway would like to see an area levelled for some on-site play space where plot 20 was removed. Most of the public space identified on your map is on too steep a gradient for any other use. Provision elsewhere is simply not acceptable. It is too far away. The alternative is that children are likely to be forced to play on a road. Traffic is also an issue. With a number of developments on St Luke's Road, Frame Lane and Woodhouse Lane, the cumulative effect has been a dramatic increase in traffic. Added to that, Frame Lane is lined with terraced homes with no available off-street parking. It also lies directly opposite the proposed entrance to the development. It is a very narrow road with pinch points and either non-existent or intermittent footpaths which are not wide enough, don't connect, or are not accessible due to the lack of dropped curbs. Pedestrians with pushchairs are required to walk in the road. In addition, the Arriva bus service was withdrawn in July 2018. Currently, any available funding is insufficient to subsidise a service for this area. Councillor Greenaway therefore urges the committee to refuse this application, which is looking for a short-term return, but at a cost to residents and the loss of local jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. We now need to listen to the applicant's agent, Robin Hooper.
Unknown
Hello.
participant is now joining.
Hello.
Hello,
Is this
Mr.
Telford
Hooper.
Council? Is this Telford Council?
Yes, Mr. Hooper.
Yes, speaking, yes.
I'm Councillor Charles Smith. I chair the Planning Committee for Telford and Wrekin Council. You're here to give you 3 minutes to speak on the... No,
Thanks very much.
you've got 3 minutes starting now if you want to start.
The site has been used in the past for industrial uses and in part still is. The buildings are tired and would need replacement as non-compliant with environmental standards, and the site causes a nuisance to residents by means of noise, smell and heavy goods vehicles entering and leaving the site. A planning appeal for part of the site to be used for residential use, leaving part as employment use, was dismissed on the sole ground of noise impact from the industrial and employment uses on the new residential property. The planning inspector agreed that there was no impact upon listed buildings or any harm to the highway network. As a result of that appeal decision, it was clear that the council cannot use loss of employment land, which is not an allocated employment site in the local plan, or on highway reasons, to now not support this scheme. To do so would be unreasonable, and the council would be liable to pay costs at any appeal if it chose to do so. The applicant has a track record of working with employers on sites where developments are undertaken. The applicant has been working with occupiers and former occupiers of the industrial units to help them find alternative locations to work, and has also worked with them in securing additional clients. This process of working with occupiers of premises on the remainder of the site will also be put in place to facilitate smooth transition for them in relocation and expanding in more modern and appropriate premises with EPCs that need to be complied with. This is not a speculative development. The site offers the opportunity to relocate the noisy and smelly businesses that exist there now, thereby removing the nuisance that caused to the residents in the area. This will also result in the lorries that visit the site not doing so, hence a highway improvement. In the world we live in today, claims of health and noise nuisance for residents from employment industrial premises is a real risk to companies, such that they do not want to locate in residential areas. The reason being is that they do not want public complaints which could result in controlling the hours of work, the days of work, noise attenuation measures to be put in place, and limiting their ability to do business and employ people. They want to be on larger sites, away from housing. This is a residential area. The residential scheme here has been subject to pre-application discussions, and the applicant has worked with all of the council departments in amending the scheme throughout the application process to respond to all the points raised by the consultees to deliver that which is now before the committee with a clear recommendation for approval in order that the development can commence. The site provides good access, a new pedestrian route, as well as more than adequate parking for the scheme, as confirmed by the council's own highway experts, who have negotiated the changes to respond to the points raised by the local councillors and parish councillor on the early plan submitted, which was then amended to reflect that. A Section 106 planning agreement and undertaking will be entered into to secure the affordable housing proposed, as well as for financial contributions for education and highways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hooper. Okay. Andy, do you have any comments again?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as we've heard, the main issues concern the loss of land used for employment purposes. The applicant has provided a detailed explanation within the written update and just within Mr. Hooper's address. And officers do acknowledge that the planning
Unknown
judgment
participant is now exiting.
on this one is a finely balanced case. In respect of, sorry, I should finish that off. But in summary, we do feel that the redevelopment of the land for residential purposes is acceptable, taking into account that it isn't an allocated employment site, and that the council's inward investment team have, will put every effort into relocating the existing businesses, as the applicant has stated that they would do so as well. In respect to the technical issues, predominantly access, it's a new access which provides the requisite visibility. In terms of pedestrian safety, I appreciate the site is on the inside of a bend, but a footpath has been provided across the entire frontage, and taking into account Councillor Seymour's comments on behalf of Councillor Greenway, I appreciate that that Frame Lane isn't a new highway asset, so it's not, it hasn't got the 2 metre wide footpaths like a lot of the modern roads around Telford do. However, as part of the redevelopment of the former pipeworks site, the council secured some money to improve the Frame Lane, and this scheme contributes 25,000 towards a traffic management scheme along that road. In terms of any increase in traffic, I think the transport assessment has shown that to be fairly minimal, in terms of 22 additional trips in the AM peak and 11 additional trips in the PM peak. But there are, or there will be, a reduction with HGVs and LGVs, the light good vehicles. In respect of the impact on heritage assets, following the omission of plot 20 from what is now an area of public open space, the council's conservation officer is now content with the scheme, and as such there's no technical objections from internal consultees. And on that basis, Chair, the officer recommendation is for approval, and I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Over to the committee now to discuss and debate. Any debate? Councillor Dugmore?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah. Well, when I first read this one, I thought, yeah, all right, we've got no problems with it. But I mean, it does say at the beginning that it's demolition of disused former industrial units, and even the applicant admits that they're not disused industrial units; they're actually there. And while I'm fully aware that we have to have a balance between the housing demand, especially affordable, and also the demands of the local economy, it seems odd to be kicking out existing businesses which are probably on a knife edge, some of them, due to the current situation, just so that we can have some more housing, because we can put housing anywhere. And it's obvious that, to see that there were some houses dismissed at appeal. So there's obviously more to this than meets the eye. So I'm not really very happy about it now. I mean, certainly if it was if they were all disused units, I think it would be a different story. But I do think that sort of we should be looking at the wider picture. I think, yes, there are places, and there's quite a few empty units on the industrial estates around the borough, and I'm sure that that the businesses may be able to relocate, although of course that's going to have significant cost. And as I say, due to the strange times that we're in at the moment, that the last thing that businesses want, well, that they're struggling to survive. Sort of, as I say, I'm not as happy with this as I was. The other comment I got to make was on the education contributions. I mean, we've got a shortage of secondary school places, and yet the education contributions, 2/3 are going to primary school, and only 1/3 are going to secondary school. Yet it's secondary schools that actually need the money, because that's where the shortage of places are. So, sort of, I'd be interested to see what, sort of the officer's take is on that, and the other points I make about trying to keep businesses to survive in these difficult times. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nigel.
Sorry for keeping you awake, Val.
Yes,
Yes, Chair, thank you. It's more or less for clarification, really. I'm in support of the houses being put there, but first of all, how many units are there and how many are actually being used? So how many empty units are there to clarify the housing estate? I mean, if it's just one unit being used, then fair enough. But if there's 3 or 4 businesses there, then, you know, there is an issue. But as I say, I am in support of the housing, but just a clarification on how many units there are and how many are actually being used.
I'll ask the officer to clarify that when we had all the contributions. Councillor Sahota.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think the gentleman from the parish council he remarked that this is a speculation by the developer. If my memory serves me right, I don't think that is a planning issue, but can the officer clarify that? If you sort of build something and to make a money on it and so on, I'm not too sure where that's... the other comments I like to make, Mr. Chairman, is that 42 comments and 22 in support of this plan, and then 19 objections. And of course, there are industrial stage looks tired and messy, and a new place. This new housing development would improve it, and I hear that. But on the other hand, on the objections side, Mr. Chairman, what sort of I picked up was that somebody says that there is this ground is bound to be contaminated. Can an officer help me with that one as well? Have we checked the ground? It's not contaminated for us to build these houses or everything on it. Other than that, I got no objection. I think it's a good policy. It's a good plan, and I'm gonna let it go. But I would like to clarify on those. The speculation, it's not an planning issue, or is it? You know, I might have missed it. And then the contamination issue as well, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Cooley. Nigel, you've still got your hand up.
Oh, sorry. I'll put it down now.
Andrew, do you want to come back on that then, on those points?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll start with Councillor Sahota's comments first, if that's okay. Yes, in terms of speculative development, that's not a material consideration because there's nothing to say that the developer won't build it out. So you're quite right there, Councillor Sahota. In terms of the contamination, the report, the application has been submitted with a contaminated land assessment, and we've that's noted at 3.2 of the report, which is on page 2, I think. And we have consulted the Environment Agency, which is on reference point 6.2.12, and they support subject to conditions, and that condition is a pre-commencement one, requiring details regarding appropriate mitigation of risks to controlled waters posed by contamination at the site. So, and equally, we will attach a condition which relates to contaminated land, and if the appropriate mitigation will be required, and then if any further unknown contamination is found during the course of it, then we ask for a new mitigation strategy. So I think that's both of Councillor Sahota's comments. In terms of Councillor Loveridge's question, on the committee update, we've reported that there's only 2 remaining tenants, one of which has made initial contact with and are discussing what assistance the applicant can offer with relocation once they've secured the acquisition of the land which they rent. So there's two remaining tenants. One of those, we're informed, has approached the applicant. So I think that's that one. And then with regard Councillor Dugmore's comments, except that the description was wrong in terms of it saying disused it should say part disused industrial estate. Although we are aware, and we've put in the report that we know that some of the units are occupied, or 2 of them. With regard to education, we consult with the local education authority, who are part of the council. They've got a spreadsheet which has got a calculation, and it bases the contribution from a development on the need that arises from it in that particular area. So we get the request from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So I appreciate that whilst there may be a borough-wide requirement for secondaries, on this particular case, the LEA have advised that they want a greater proportion of money towards primary schools.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Just one more point, because Councillor Greenway says that this is not an industrial estate and the statement is incorrect. Is it an industrial estate or not?
Thank you, Chair. It's Andy Gittins again.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not an allocated employment site, but it is in industrial use, or at least 2 of the units are in industrial use.
Okay. Any other points from the committee? No?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I just got my hand raised. In fact, I'll put myself back onto the video now. There is a mention in the report for £25,000 for highways improvements, and it talks of part of a wider calming plan. I just wanted to know what that meant in terms of the location.
Okay. Andrew, can you clarify that?
Yep. So the council street works team or network management team are looking at a range of improvements to Frame Lane. I think they were, at the time of writing the report, they were due to go out to consultation. So obviously, with it being adopted highway, they'll go out to consultation and seek views from the local community. I know there was improvements to Jiggers Bank and the island of Frame Lane, and there's also improvements to the bus provision. Although I think I heard that it had been revoked as we were speaking. Unfortunately, I don't know the exact details of what network management are planning on Frame Lane, so I can't confirm for definite. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ballyhoo?
Chair, if I may, just picking up on that point, this also forms part of a wider mitigation measures for the Doseley pipe works, as well as funding's been secured from that application to traffic calming measures along Frame Lane too. So this will go into that pot effectively to secure a wider package. In addition, just to mention off the Doseley pipe works application, there was also some funding that goes towards the bus service route, and we are in discussions with Arriva in terms of how that route can be reinstigated with the funding that's there, and how that can play out. So there is some other mechanisms going on, but it's part of a different scheme.
Thank you, Val. Councillor Jackie Loveridge?
Yes, Chair. As there is only the 1 unit, possibly the 1 unit left, I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Is there a second for the recommendation?
I'll second it.
Right, we're ready to vote then? Ian, can you do the roll call? Yes. Councillor Scott, did you want to come back with your hands up?
No.
Take your hand down then, can you please?
Oh, sorry, I thought I had.
It's still there.
No, my hand's down.
Oh.
It's up on me.
Carry on then, Ian. Sorry, do the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. We've had a proposer and a seconder as regards the recommendation. Could we have an indication as how you wish to vote alphabetically? Councillor Dugmore?
For.
Councillor Kiernan?
For.
Councillor Loveridge?
For.
Councillor Sahota?
For.
Councillor Scott?
For.
Councillor Smith?
For.
Councillor Turley?
For. Thank you. That application is allowed then. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you all. Right, we now move on to the third application. We got 4 of them actually. But the third one on page 89, and this is the Constitution Hill School.
Chair,
Right, only for Constitution Hill.
Chair, it's Ian Ross speaking here. I'm
Yeah.
just I'm thinking that I think we've probably given up on Councillor Lavery and Councillor White, and unless Kieran, there's any indication that those councillors have joined the meeting. I'm kind of giving up. No. Okay, Chair. We'll just carry on. Thank you.
Before we get into this one, I want Val here to clarify something on the enforcement part.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, if I may, just before we start to consider this application, I just wanted to raise your attention to the fact that the site's been subject to enforcement complaints for the development not being erected in accordance with the approved plans. Complaints were raised at the beginning of the year and were duly investigated. However, officers were unable to recognise the increase in height. Further complaints were received and again investigated. However, it was only on the provision of a topographical survey conducted by the applicant that we've been unable to identify the increase in the ground levels. A planning application for a material amendment has therefore been requested, and we sincerely apologise that this has not been identified earlier and that the application to consider this matter is subject for members' consideration today. Matters, however, relating to the enforcement investigation are not a material consideration.
Thank you, Val.
Okay.
Karen Denmark, do you want to introduce the report, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Chair. So this is a site that's on Constitution Hill in Wellington, and it sits within the grounds of the Masonic Hall. The application seeks retrospective planning permission for the erection of 4 dwellings, which were previously approved with a slab level of 8.9, and they have been constructed with a slab level of 9.38. This makes the dwellings approximately 48 centimetres higher than previously approved. The principle of the development has been approved, has been established, and so we're not looking at the principles of the development, we're just considering the impacts of the additional height of the slab level. There is an error in my report, my apologies. I refer to sun lounges being across the bedrooms to the rear of 10 and 11 Alverley Close. This isn't actually the case. The sun lounge does go across the bedroom of number 11 Alverley Close, but on number 10 it goes across the back of the kitchen. But it is there, but it just goes across a different room. One additional representation has been received since the publication of the report, and that raises no new planning issues. The recommendation is that the application be approved, subject to conditions, including the increase of the height of the boundary fence from the current 1.8 metres to 2.1 metres. There are public speakers, so I'll pass back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Right, so we got the public speakers to come in then. There's Councillor Lee Carter, Mrs Glenys Lloyd and David Knight, the applicant. Can we call it Councillor Lee Carter, please?
Councillor Carter should be with us now.
Hello, Lee.
Hi, can you hear me? I think I'm having a few technical difficulties.
I can hear you now.
Brilliant, thank you.
Councillor Charles Smith here. Lee.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me a short period of time to speak. I hope I won't take all 3 minutes. Clearly, this application has caused considerable consternation amongst residents, particularly of Alverley Close, Hyatt Avenue and Albert Road. I want to make it clear that none of those residents, in my discussions with them and my attempt isn't to fight old battles about the original application. That's gone, the houses are built there, despite the fact that this is perhaps one of the most, and I believe there was a site visit. I hope some members took the opportunity to look at the development and the impact it's had. I believe this to be one of the most stark examples of a new development imposing itself on the privacy and overlooking an existing settled mature residential area in College Ward, if not the whole of Wellington. As I say, everyone I've spoken to accepts that original development, albeit reluctantly. All they ask is that there's a principle of fairness that's adhered to here, and that the development is constructed to the height agreed in the original plans and not the extra half a metre. Obviously, clearly, I've got to articulate the view of the residents in that this appears to be an attempt by the developer to ignore the original planning permissions and ride roughshod over local feeling. You'll note in terms of the objections and those in support that there is a huge amount of objection from local residents in what is a small close in terms of Alveley Close and Higher Avenue. And those in support of the 4 that are mentioned in the report, 3 don't reside in the area, and 2, at least 2, have connections to the Masonic Association. I also note from one of the letters in support that the developer is one and the same developer who built the Masonic Lodge's new dining room. Clearly, there was concern about the fact that residents had raised the issue of the development being built higher than the plans originally. Obviously, that situation has been explained by Val Hume. This situation does still rankle amongst residents, and developers have only came late in the day to admit that they had, in fact, built development higher than the original plans. Just in terms of planning considerations, there are 3 that I believe, myself and the residents believe, that occur here and which are relevant. First of all, a residential amenity of a number of properties on Alveley Close, loss of light, overshadowing, loss of privacy has been exacerbated by this extra height, if it wasn't by the original application anyway, and I hope anyone who went there yesterday would see that clearly. As I say, that original application is reluctantly accepted by the residents, but this extra height does further exacerbate that loss of residential amenity. Those same properties, clearly with the extra height, are affected by noise and disturbance from those properties, and the fact that they overlook the back gardens, Alveley Close, those properties there particularly acutely affected. And as I say, this new increased height and visual appearance has a significant detrimental effect on the character of Alveley Close. Anyone who went there before that development will now see it has been affected. It's affected even more so by this extra height of this development. I think that's all I want to say at this point, and I would just urge all of you members to consider carefully that fundamental principle of fairness. Residents have accepted reluctantly that development, the initial planning application. All they ask now is for fairness, and that development is built to the original height. That's all they're asking. That's despite the imposition on their properties, the increased traffic on Constitution Hill that's been suffered or will be suffered as a replacement of this. They accept all of that. It's just that that fundamental principle of fairness, that the development is built to that original height. Thanks. Sorry I've taken too long.
Thank you, Lee. Can we call in Mrs. Glenys Lloyd, please?
Unknown participant is now joining.
Hello.
Hello, Mrs. Lloyd.
Hello.
I'm Councillor Charles Smith. I chair the plans board.
Oh right, okay, I'm with you.
And we did see you briefly yesterday when we had a site visit.
Yes, it's very difficult to see any more than briefly, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you got 3 minutes to...
Indeed I have, if you'll have me.
We will have you indeed. If you've got 3 minutes, we will listen to you carefully.
Okay, then you tell me when to start.
Start now if you want to.
Okay then, thank you. My name is Glenys Lloyd. I am also speaking on behalf of the residents of Alveley Close that are being impacted by this development. First, we would like to make a comment that we don't think the retrospective planning application is a minor amendment to the past plans. We would like to draw attention to the 2 site sections aired at your committee meeting, which was called in by Councillor Lee Carter, those being the original past site section and the retrospective site section. When applying for retrospective planning, why did they not send the original site section with the houses being raised by half a metre? Why instead was a completely different site section with numerous changes such as levels, height of walls, fences and height of properties? The site is clearly overdeveloped as everything within the site is to its limits. therefore causing the development of houses being so near to the existing properties. To have built them further away would not have been possible, as it would have been encroached on the access to the site and simply not have worked, as mentioned in the case officer's report. How can four four-bed detached houses go any way to solve the problem of a lack of houses and be in keeping with the area where the site is surrounded by bungalows and now have been wrongly built by half a metre too high? The developer has obviously saved a lot of money by not lowering the ground, but has caused huge problems to himself and local residents. Looking at the case officer's report, it is suggested the developer would need to raise the height of the fence by 30 centimetres, which is a foot. We are struggling to believe this is the answer to a retrospective planning application. We think the residents of the impacted properties should be consulted about the raising of the fence height and also discuss compensation, because having to live with the houses that have been built half a metre higher than past plans, and also the effect of the overdeveloped site has and always will have a gross invasion of privacy, proximity and physical impact on us. And let's not forget, raising the height of the fence does not lower the houses. We have, over the last 8 months, challenged this development, as we could see when the house on plot 1 was near completion, it appeared too high. We have from January 2020 sent emails to the planning department regarding this matter. To cut a very long story short, there has been 3 enforcement officers stating in emails there were no breaches or deviations of the plans that had been passed. Moving on, they eventually admitted levels were never checked. If they had checked the levels in January, we would not be in this situation today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Lloyd.
Thank you.
We now call upon the applicant, David Knight.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Hello.
Mr. Knight?
Yes, that's me, yes.
Councillor Charles Smith, I chair the plans board.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Okay.
You've got 3 minutes to address the committee.
Okay, do you want me to begin?
Begin now if you want to. Yes, please. Just 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. For those who did not have the opportunity to attend the site meeting yesterday, my name is David Knight and I represent the building company MW Knight & Sons. Our work mostly focuses on home renovations, listed building and conservation work. We also do disability adaptations for a variety of clients. We'd like to think that we have a reputation for reliability, quality and service. We have a small and loyal workforce of 12, many of whom have been with us for over a decade. I thought that this was important to mention because we are not purely a house builder. This is only our 4th site since 2014. We purchased it with planning permission and worked with the planning authority to develop the current scheme. We are a small family building company. We are by no means a large-scale developer, and this is an important development to us. This application is for an amendment to the floor height of 48 centimetres. This is due to my error, and it was made when I set the houses out. I had no idea of this error until I heard from enforcement, and I immediately checked the relative levels and discovered that there was indeed a discrepancy, which I then reported to the enforcement team straight away, hence the application that is before you today. The reason for the error is that the original survey plan, which was provided at purchase with the planning consent, did not refer to an ordnance survey datum, and the floor level mistakenly was not transferred to the setting out drawing I had, and I missed it. Hopefully, those who visited last night will see why this was not apparent, as the houses seemed to sit well within the site. It was not calculated. From the start of the build process, 3 of the residents of Alverley Close, particularly the ladies in 10 and 11, were concerned over the impact that the development might have on them, although they had not objected to the scheme. I offered them a screening on top of the rear boundary wall, but they asked instead if I would plant some trees within our boundary, which I was of course happy to do. I hope that those of you who visited site yesterday could see that if you lower your viewing height by 48 centimetres from the upstairs bedroom windows, that there is no real material change in the sight line or the view to the properties behind. Similarly, if the houses are viewed from the rear, if the ridge height was lowered slightly, It would not reinstate the view from Alverley Close and would not affect the relative size and appearance of the houses. I do, of course, apologise for my mistake, but it was sincerely a mistake. The Planning Authority have produced a very thorough and comprehensive report on the application, and they have proposed mitigation by raising the rear fence and creating an effective planting scheme. I'm happy to provide this, and I hope that you will support the officer's recommendation to approve this application. And if approved, I will act in accordance with those recommendations with immediate effect. I'd like you to thank you very much for allowing me to speak this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Charles?
Yes, speaking.
It's Ian Ross speaking here. Just in view of the fact that the reference to the Masonic connection has been raised in the public speaking, just to remind members that one of my roles is to protect the decision of the committee, and I know Councillor Kiernan has quite properly raised and mentioned his interest to a degree by saying that he's a member of the Masons. I need to just remind, this is for the benefit of Councillor Kiernan. The test is whether
unknown participant is now exiting.
Sorry. The test is, Councillor Kiernan, is whether a member of the public, knowing all the facts, would reasonably think that you might be influenced by your membership of the organisation. Now that's the test that you need to just think. I think you initially said that you were quite relaxed about it, but I just feel, in view of the fact that it was raised during the public speaking, that, and my responsibility to protect the decision of the committee. I don't know. Nobody knows which way you've got an open mind on this as to which way you might vote. But at this stage, I feel before the debate starts, you just might want to think about whether, as I say, I'll repeat the test that you have to consider, Councillor Kiernan, is whether a member of the public, knowing all the facts, would reasonably think that you might be influenced by your membership of the organisation. I don't know the full background, but I need to put that over to you, Councillor Kiernan. Have I made that clear enough?
Yes, I will not be voting anyway.
Oh,
I don't intend to vote anyway.
Well, maybe in these circumstances, you should actually withdraw from the debate. That just basically means in these circumstances, if that's your view, because I can't make up your mind for you because I don't know enough of the facts. But
I'm making my mind up now. I will not vote, and I'll leave the meeting.
That's the wisest thing to do, I think, Terry. Is leave the meeting. We'll call you back in a minute.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for bringing that in later, but it just
it's quite proper, and I'm pleased you did, because I was thinking myself, all the noise of the Masonic Hall and where they are. Yeah. Okay, we're back to the debate then. Karen, do you want to come back on what you've heard from the public speakers?
Yes, sorry, I was having a problem finding my mute button. Right, so essentially a lot of the comments were really about the planning considerations that we would have had discussed when the original planning applications were heard. We're talking about overdevelopment, we're talking about the scale and overshadowing, etc., etc. So really all of those issues have already been considered and found to be acceptable with the granting of planning permission. So we're not looking at the granting of planning permission again. We're just looking at whether this extra increase of 48 centimetres is sufficient to warrant some form of mitigation or some other measures. The overlooking is probably the most sensitive issue and the one that's most perceptible as a result of this increase in height. And as those who went to the site visit yesterday, you saw that the new dwellings actually have rather an oblique relationship with most of the properties around them. The most direct relationship is between the plots and number 10 Alverley Close, where the separation distance currently is 21.5 metres. And this meets the council's separation distance criteria. Now, where the differences in ground level are a metre, then, sorry, yes, a metre. yeah, where the differences in ground level between the new and the existing is a metre, we would normally expect this separation distance to increase by 2 metres. Now, that wouldn't be possible. So we can look at other mitigation measures that might be acceptable. Hence the recommendation that the fence height be increased from its current 1.8 metres to 2.1 metre, and the introduction of additional landscaping to be secured by condition. So that's the recommendations that we're putting forward. Other issues that were raised, such as noise and disturbance, increased traffic, etc., they have all been considered as part of the original planning application and not for consideration now. So, you know, it's down to the recommendation in the application.
Thank you, Karen. Open for the committee to debate. Any debate? No, you'll do more?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, the site visit was very, very useful. If we hadn't gone on the site visit, it would have been virtually impossible to try and determine this particular application. I mean, certainly it seems to be a, you know, sort of, you know, the applicant, you know, has made an error, and I'm a bit surprised that our planning department didn't actually pick it up, really. But by having gone to see it, I mean, the thing is that it's a few years since I've done trigonometry, but with a distance of 21 metres away, the actual angle, as you know, Chair, we were bobbing up and down in the back bedrooms of the houses to see what difference 40 odd centimetres made. And quite honestly, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. And we've looked at it, well, I looked at it from both angles as everybody else did, so you make your own minds up. But certainly from my point of view, I couldn't see any material difference between the heights, the existing height and what should have been the height. I mean, with regards to mitigating it by increasing the height of the fence, all that's going to mean is that the properties in Alverley Avenue are going to see a bit of fence higher than the very nice brick wall that's been there for many years. So you know, I would have gone for just the increased planting, really, which will help with regards to that. I mean, as far as being overseen from the upstairs bedrooms, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. Looking from both sides, so quite honestly, I'm happy to support the officer recommendation. You know, I sympathise with the neighbours, but quite honestly, the development's already been approved, and the actual difference in height, it isn't going to make any difference whatsoever from appearances, whether or not you're in the new property or whether you're in the existing neighbours' properties. So I'm quite happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Scott.
Yeah, thank you. That's the crux of the matter, really. The principle has been established on this development, and we were asked to look at the difference this 48 centimetres is going to make. And I think in terms of, well, as Councillor Dugmas just said, the site visit was invaluable, to be honest, because we were able to see the difference it may or may not make. And I have to be honest and say I cannot see that it will make any difference to change that. It is not really impacting on the main bungalows, as I can see. I can understand number 10 having issues with it, but like Councillor Dugmore says, if the planting goes into place, the mitigations are there, it's not something we should be looking at to change now. I would support it purely because I cannot see that there's any real problems as far as the neighbours are concerned, although I understand they probably don't want any kind of building there. But there was a school there before that was 2 stories high. These are just replacing that. So, yeah, I would support it.
Thank you. Councillor Sauter.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I hate to be told after half an hour I'm on mute or something. Okay, thanks very much for that. I always feel uneasy approving retrospective because sometimes the developer try to exploit, say, well, let's go ahead and build it, and then, you know, they'll have no choice but to say yes in the end. I am 50-50 on this when I was reading it today, this morning, but the officers talked about and my colleagues talked about the height, and I'm quite happy with that one. But one of the issue of the car parking, I think we, if the officer can answer this, on the car park 845 on page 96, I thought our local plan said you have to have a 1.5 car park spaces per dwelling. On here, we don't seem to having any numbers really, Karen. Is there? Are we on the ball here with the parking spaces, or you know, some of the issue is that there might be a parking spaces on the Constitution Hill or the other places, but are we sort of sorting the parking spaces according to our local plan? Thank you.
Yes. Well,
to that.
Do you want me to? Yeah. So the original application was considered a 3-bedroom, and so the parking complied with that. But actually, in fact, it's really 4-bedroom. So this proposal, provided the garages remain as garages, will comply with the parking standards, which is why I'm proposing an extra condition that we remove permitted development rights for the conversion of garages in the future. And then that will then ensure that there aren't any increased pressures in terms of parking. So the development as it is constructed does comply and can comply with the parking standards as per the adopted local plan.
So they will build the parking spaces when they knock the garages down, and that's going to be in one of the conditions, is it?
No, all the houses have integral garages, and they have 2 parking spaces in front of them.
Yep.
So to ensure that we comply with the parking standards in the future, we need to remove permitted development rights for the conversion of garages, so that retains the 3 parking spaces per plot, because they need 2.6.
All right, thanks, Karen.
2.4 actually. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris Turley.
Thank you, Chair. Was it also muted there should be a condition that the lofts aren't converted?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Roof lights, yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
Good point, Chris.
Any other comments?
No.
No.
Will somebody move the recommendation then?
Move it.
I'll second it, Chair.
Nigel, you didn't want to come back, did you, Nigel? Your hands up again.
No, I'm fine. No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Ian, can you do the roll call, please?
I used to be a puppeteer.
Okay. As regards the recommendation that's been put forward, we've had a proposer and a seconder. Alphabetically, please could members indicate which way they'd like to vote here on this item. Councillor Dugmore.
For.
Councillor Loveridge.
For.
Councillor Sahota.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Turley. Councillor Turley.
Councillor Turley, we didn't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, for.
I think that's everybody because Councillor Kiernan was out of the room. So I think I've covered everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That is allowed. That.
Okay, I'll go and bring him back in. Okay.
If you will, please, Nigel.
He's going through my cupboards now, looking for something for his tea, I think.
Respect that Councillor Kiernan wasn't in the meeting, that item.
I don't think he'll come back in now.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've got 2 chairs in this.
Oh yes, that's gone. He's back. Right. We now come to the final one of the day, and that's the concrete works at Lightmoor. It's TWC 2019-1042, and this is for reserved matters. Andy, you're supposed to be doing this one.
I am, thank you, Chair. So, as you say...
Just a minute, Andy. It's on page 9 for those who haven't got there. You're going backwards, page 9. Okay, Andy.
Thank you, Chair. As you say, this is a reserve matters for the erection of 52 dwellings on land at the former concrete works on Lightmoor Road. The principle of development at this site has been established by an outline consent granted by the Planning Committee in 2017, which included details of access and the up to 52 dwellings number. As such, the matters for consideration now are the layout, the appearance, the scale and the landscaping. Just in terms of a bit of housekeeping why this application is at committee, because normally it wouldn't have to be before you members. It was originally called in by Councillor Jane Greenway, who had raised some concerns. The majority of these had been overcome. However, at the time of adding the application to the committee agenda, further clarification was still outstanding on drainage and management of the on-site retaining structures. That said, clarification was received, which addressed Councillor Greenway's comments, and Councillor Greenway's acknowledged that. However, this wasn't until after the application was placed on the agenda, after which time it isn't possible to withdraw it because it's been advertised that it's on the agenda. So I just wanted to point out why it was on committee. I didn't want members thinking that Councillor Greenway had called it in and then had no objection to it. In summary, offers a recommendation is for approval of the reserve matters subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. We have one speaker on this one, Bob Wennington.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Mr. Wennington, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, Bob. It's Charles Smith. I chair the Plans Board.
Hello, Charles.
You've got 3 minutes to address the committee, if you will, please.
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the Friends of Dawley Hamlets Local Nature Reserve, of which I am the chairman. The reserve is a 38-hectare site based around the pools of Little Dawley. The site of this development is adjacent to the west side of the reserve, separated only by Lightmoor Road. At the south end of the nature reserve is the largest population of great crested newts in Telford. And as you may know, great crested newts are a European protected species. The animals on their eggs, their breeding sites and their resting places are protected by law. We are greatly concerned that the close proximity of this proposed development will have an adverse effect on the great crested newt population. The great crested newts will certainly be travelling through this proposed development area to forage and to reach their terrestrial habitats. Are there satisfactory measures in place to prevent incidental killing of these species and to mitigate reduction in local habitat connectivity for these species and for other amphibians? Many large mature trees are to be removed within this development or on its boundaries. In some cases, they are not being removed to facilitate the development. Is this really necessary? Are the necessary procedures in place to mitigate for the loss of these mature trees? Will any compensatory habitat be created elsewhere on the development site? A substantial amount of non-porous surfaces are proposed, which will increase surface water to an area already susceptible to flooding and may lead to runoff onto the local nature reserve. Are there procedures in place to prevent this? There seems to be insufficient detail regarding the management and maintenance of SUDs and attention. Telford and Wrekin Ecology submitted an objection to the proposed development, stating many areas of concern. As a group, we share these concerns, especially conditions 23 and 24, which concern an ecological mitigation strategy and long-term habitat management plan. Have these issues been resolved to the satisfaction of Telford and Wrekin Ecology? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Right, back to Andrew to...
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have to work quickly here. The outline secured £10,000 towards Great Crested Newt mitigation. There's a site to the east, I think it is. West, which is Lightmoor Local Nature Reserve, which Shropshire Wildlife. Part of this site was privately owned, and the talks have been taking place with Shropshire Wildlife Trust, or they were in 2015, 16, 17 when the outline was under consideration, for the Wildlife Trust to take it on. Obviously, that would involve the developer paying a commuted sum to the Wildlife Trust for its maintenance. The conditions that Mr. Wellington commented upon were from the outline. So, as members know, they will state that prior to the commencement of any development, details of the habitat management need to be submitted to and approved by the local planning authority. That's outside the current Reserve Matters application which you're considering. Just in terms of the consultation responses, sorry, you'll have to bear with me a second, but I'm just looking for the... Yes, at 7.3 of the report, we've noted, I appreciate they're not the full comments, but they are online, that ecology are satisfied with the proposal. In terms of trees, I've got a note in respect to that, which states that, sorry again, bear with me. Yeah, there's no objection from the tree officer on either the outline or the Reserve Matters stage, and there will be a construction exclusion zone plan which they need to adhere to so that they don't go too close to the trees that are to be retained. If it's okay, I'll just have to have a look at how many trees are being removed, which was a comment. I'll try and be as quick as I can. I don't know if you want to hand back to the members, Chair, while I look for that, because it might be a couple of minutes.
Are there any comments from the committee?
Well,
Councillor Dugmore.
Right, I'm going to put my hand down now so that I've done it. Yeah, there you go. Right, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, the only comment I've got to make is just about the drainage, because that is one of the things raised by Councillor Greenaway, and it's just that we see again that the storm events up to on 8.5.3 regarding storm events and the 1 in 100 year return period, with only a 40% allowance for climate change. I mean, we've seen time and time again that these 1 in 100 year events happen far more frequently than 1 in 100 years. And I do think that we need to be building in more of a safety net on these drainage issues, because as we've seen fairly recently, and we've seen significant flooding in various different parts of the borough, and so as I say, I do think that we need to be building in far more. It should be I don't know, 3 or 4 in 100 year events, because the amount of surface water that we're seeing nowadays from some of these sites is quite significant. So I just thought I'd make that point, Chair.
Thank you, Joe. Councillor Sahota.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My only comment is all the points that Councillor Greenaway has raised have been met, and she's quite happy with that. Then I'm quite happy with it as well, and I don't mind moving it, the recommendation.
Okay. Andrew, do you want to come back?
Yeah, I'm just trying to open up the the plan, which shows the number of trees which are coming out. But just while Stat does that, members will note that there's an ecological buffer that runs to the north of the site with a relocated footpath, which has already been done, albeit without informally without going through the procedure. That will be formalised through this proposal, which would then link up to the footpath through Lightmoor Nature Reserve and through to Lightmoor itself. In terms of the drainage, Councillor Dugmore raises a very good point. Some of the storm events we do have had this year are more than the figure stated. In an ideal world, we would require developers to put in larger systems, but I know our colleagues in drainage are constrained by national drainage policy, so that has increased within the last few years. Actually, it used to be 1 in 100 year plus 20% for climate change. That's increased to 40% now within the last couple of years, and it it also takes into account the impermeability of a site. So the more permeable a site is, the less provision they have to make. So it is proportionate. So it does benefit the developers that put more permeable spaces within their developments.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Any other comments from the committee? Councillor Hope has actually moved the recommendations. Is there a second for the recommendation?
Second, Chair.
Right. Ian, can you do the roll call again, please?
Yes, thank you. As regards the recommendation, it's been moved and seconded. I'll take the votes as follows. Councillor Dugmore?
For.
Councillor Kiernan?
For.
Councillor Loveridge?
For.
Councillor Sahota?
For.
Councillor Scott?
For.
Councillor Smith?
For.
And Councillor Turley?
For.
Thank you very much.
You. That is allowed. Can I thank you all for attending, but before you go, can I make an announcement that Maria, our erstwhile Democratic Services person, is leaving us. She's going to work for somebody else.
Oh. Traitor.
No, she's not a traitor.
Sorry.
She's trying to stay, but she wasn't allowed to.
Thanks for everything.
Good luck. Good luck. Yeah.
Thank you, Maria. Good luck.
Thanks for all the effort she's put in over the past couple of years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well done.
See you, everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.